It's day 2 at the Vanity Fair New Establishment Summit, covering the intersection of Hollywood, Wall Street, and Silicon Valley. And this is Bloomberg West. Coming up, one of the world's richest investors is upping his stake in Twitter after Dorsey was named permanent CEO. I will ask Twitter co-founder Yves Williams for his take on Dorsey overseeing 2 companies. And speaking of Twitter, former CEO Dick Costolo has a new job. It involves going back to his roots as a stand-up comedian. And I will be sitting down with another round of heavyweights, including AOL CEO Tim Armstrong, Hollywood super producer Brian Grazer, and Yves Béhar, the chief creative officer for the wearable tech titan Jawbone. Now, to our lead, a vote of confidence for Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. Saudi Arabian billionaire Prince Al-Walid bin Talal and his investment company have boosted their combined stake in Twitter to more than 5%. This according to a disclosure made in the same week Dorsey was named permanent CEO. The purchase gives Al-Walid and his company the second biggest stake in Twitter, worth about $1 billion. It puts him ahead of CEO Dorsey, who owns just over 3%, but both trail co-founder Yves Williams, who owns nearly 7% of shares. Brad Stone, our global tech editor, and I caught up with Twitter co-founder, now Medium CEO Yves Williams earlier today. In his first interview since naming Dorsey permanent CEO, he was, of course, on the executive search committee. We started by asking him about their decision.
Well, we thought long and hard about it, obviously, and everyone from the beginning knew that Jack was capable and he had a unique perspective on the company. There's a question of could he do both the Twitter job and the Square job, and so we wanted to see what our options are, and that was our job as a board to look far and wide, and eventually we thought the combination of what Jack brings to the table and what he had already done in the last 3 or 4 months convinced us that he was the best person for the job.
So how do you really feel about the fact that he's doing 2 jobs? I mean, Elon Musk was on stage yesterday saying he doesn't recommend it. Yeah,
well, I don't think Jack would recommend it either from talking to him, but you know, he's got his commitments at Square, and it's not ideal. No one would say this is ideal, that we want anyone's time split. But it didn't change the fact that we still thought, despite that, he was the best choice.
And Ev, your work is not done. You guys want to reformulate the Twitter board and find a new chairman. What are you looking for in a new Twitter board, and particularly in a new chairman?
I think we're just at the beginnings of figuring that out, really, so I can't speak to that too much. We were fully focused on the CEO search for a while, and it wasn't until deciding for sure that Jack was the CEO that we knew what we needed in a board, and he's obviously going to play a big role in it. The chairman and CEO need to have a good relationship.
A lot of attention has been paid in the past to the Ev-Jack relationship. How's it doing now?
It's really well. I'd say it's better than it's been in years. We've come together through this process. I mean, I've joked that Twitter is like our mutual child. So we've come together and we hold its future as our highest priorities, and we see eye to eye on most things when it comes to future of Twitter.
How much do you see yourself working with him on the product going forward?
I'm happy to be helpful where I can. I mean, and I'm fully focused on Medium. I'm not perhaps as good at splitting my time as Jack is, but I will help wherever I can.
So let's talk about Medium. You've got a big event in San Francisco tonight. You're going to unveil something. Give us a clue.
We're going to unveil a few things, and it's a bunch of things. Some of it's product. We've wrapped up a bunch of new features, particularly in our apps. We're releasing new versions of our apps that there's some partnerships that we're announcing at the same time, and then a little bit about our future plans about how to make publishing sustainable on the platform and on the internet. So we're really excited about but it's a wide collection of stuff.
You guys recently raised $57 million in capital.
We did.
What does that get you? What are you going to do with the money?
It gets us time. It gets us momentum has been building on Medium a lot this year. There's more publishing every day. There's more reading every day, and really what that lets us do is extend our runway for a good long while we build the business. That's really the focus.
Google announcing accelerated mobile web pages today. They're working with Twitter on it. What's your take on this? Do you see the potential for Medium to be part of this?
It's great. I mean, it's a user focus, user experience focused feature. I think everybody is seeing the same thing, that speed and convenience always win in the end, and that has a lot to do with why we build Medium, because we see if we can build a seamless reading and writing experience that all integrates very nicely, then people are going to use that. That's where they're going to go, versus 1,000 different websites that load slowly, especially on the mobile phone. And so everybody sees that and is creating different solutions toward the same goal.
Somebody recently called Medium the PR newswire for a new generation. Somewhat unflatteringly. What was your reaction to that?
Well, it's obviously a short-sighted take on it. Medium's a publishing platform. It gives everybody a voice. It gives individuals a voice. It gives companies and organizations a voice. All those people are publishers on the web now. Millions and millions of websites are basically promotional websites. They will publish on platforms, and a lot of them publish on Medium. It's a small percentage of overall Medium publishing, but obviously it's there. Just like Twitter is full of promotions, YouTube is full of promotions. All major content platforms have a marketing component.
Last quick question. What does success for Twitter and Jack look like in 5 years? 30 seconds.
I mean, Twitter is just getting started in terms of its potential, and I think Jack can unlock that. And really the team that is going to unlock it, and it's going to be much bigger than it is now.
That was Twitter co-founder and Medium CEO, Yves Williams. And speaking of Twitter, now former Twitter employees, ex-Twitter CEO Dick Costolo has a new gig. He is now writing for HBO's hit show Silicon Valley. You may recall last season ended with the CEO of Pied Piper getting ousted. Very similar to some of the real-life drama at Costolo's former company. We sat down with the show's executive producers Mike Judge and Alec Berg yesterday and asked them about the news.
I think we're allowed to say, he sits in our writers' room with us a couple days a week. It's great.
Is he bringing it?
Yeah, what is he bringing?
He sure is. Well, he has a comedy background. He did improv comedy in Chicago way back in the day.
So what's like the most surprising thing he's brought to the table?
Boy, I don't know. I don't remember ever being shocked at anything he said. Like, I'm shocked sometimes that we say, would something like this ever happen? And most of the time he goes, yeah, that happens all the time. That's sort of shocking.
And we actually ran into Dick Costolo here just a couple of hours ago, and he said that when that happened, when Mike and Alec let that slip, his phone just started ringing off the hook, which HBO saying, we might have let a little cat out of the bag. But
well, we asked and they answered, so I was very proud that we got that news out there.
He said he's having fun. He also said he feels free.
He looks relieved of a burden, and frankly, so does Yves Williams. I mean, I think they pursued this search with such public scrutiny. Jack is back now permanently. There's a sort of grace period that accompanies any new CEO. Twitter has time to reboot a little bit. They've got a big challenge ahead of them, but I think the scrutiny is going to let off a little bit, and they're all feeling that.
Well, Dick is taking some time off. We'll see where he ends up next. I don't think it's the end for him.
And we will all be watching Silicon Valley next season.
All right. Thank you, Brad. Coming up, more of our big interviews from the Vanity Fair New Establishment Summit, including AOL CEO Tim Armstrong and Hollywood producer Brian Grazer. And as we head to break, I want to leave you with one stock on the move today, and that is GoPro. Shares fell to their lowest price ever today after Morgan Stanley slashed its target price to $35, way down from $62. Morgan Stanley citing disappointing sales of the new Hero 4 camera. Bloomberg West live from the Vanity Fair New Establishment Summit. AOL Chairman Tim Armstrong has been on the front lines of online media and advertising for a long time now. Earlier today, Brad and I got to chat with him, and we covered a range of topics, starting with Verizon's recent purchase of AOL. Tim, so great to have you here. Enjoyed your panel on stage. It's been 6 months since Verizon announced buying AOL. How's it going so far?
It's going really well. I mean, one of the things I think we got to spend almost a year with Verizon before we did the deal. So with Lowell McAdam and Marnie Walden and the team at Verizon. So everybody knew what they were getting into in terms of doing.
What's changed for you?
For me personally, I would say probably 30 or 40% of my time is actually back into product and back into what we're doing as a business. Like which I didn't have the luxury of doing before. I do a daily 8 a.m. call now with the top 30 or 50 people at the company, and we're literally moving things real time. And it was harder to do as a public company, but Verizon actually is a great mix because we're adding up hopefully a lot of growth opportunity for Verizon. And two is, I think from a Verizon standpoint, they have a massive opportunity to build businesses on top of their current network. And I think it's a mix of strategy, culture, and people, and it's going really well. I'm really happy with it.
Tim, the online advertising business has been imperiled recently by two things. One, ad blockers, of course, which allow internet users to bypass the ads that support websites like the Huffington Post.
Right.
And two, click fraud. The recent Bloomberg Business Week had a whole story about how a lot of the clicks that advertisers see are fake.
Yeah.
So how imperiled is the online advertising ecosystem, and what can AOL do to restore trust?
Yeah, so first, I mean, I have a slightly contrarian view on this, which is I think there's a big problem here. I think the fact that consumers are blocking ads is a signal to us as a publisher or other people that you have to improve your ad quality, but that's going to drive a lot of innovation. That's one of the things we're doing on our daily calls is talking about how do we improve that experience. And by the way, everyone in the ecosystem is going to do that. The second piece is around, I think the internet's probably the most transparent media type in general, and I think that anything that has to do with fraudulent things, you have massive benefits in the future against that. Everyone's going to be connecting through a machine, their phone, and that will help actually figure out who people are and what fraudulent traffic is and there isn't. We've been the leader, we're the co-heads for the IAB, the Internet Advertising Bureau, of basically leading the charge on fraud. So I feel good about it from our standpoint. I think the whole industry has to address it. But when you really look at where we are right now, those two problems are the industry's biggest opportunity. Those are problems because everyone's using digital media and mobile media, and everyone's trying to put ad dollars there. That's why those are coming up as issues. So it's I think the term is like a high-class problem, and we have to have high-class solutions for that problem.
There's a lot of talk here about a tech bubble, but I wonder about media specifically. We're seeing insane valuations for companies like BuzzFeed, Vice, Biz Insider just got by. You, of course, bought the Huffington Post now a few years ago. Do you think we're in a media bubble?
I think the valuations aren't high enough, and the reason is because when you look at the consumer migration of products and services, and then you look at these valuations, when we bought the Huffington Post when we were a public company, our stock dropped by 20%, I think, the day we announced it. Investors were saying, stay out of content. They were really nervous about it. But the reality is there's probably only a handful of companies, Business Insider's one, BuzzFeed, us, Vice, who invested while the entire economy, 2008, 2009, 2010, was really poor. People got out of content. We went into content. And what you're seeing now is you have all these traditional companies trying to make the transition into digital, and there's only a handful of people at scale who invested. So the companies that invested, there is no supply of companies to buy that are at the scale of a Huffington Post or a Vice or a BuzzFeed or a Silicon or a Business Insider. And when we look back historically 10 years from now and look back, people are going to say the biggest missed opportunity was everyone ran away from content during that time period, and 5 or 6 companies went into content. Recode also got acquired. So there's an amazing amount of benefit now to having invested during that time.
Really quickly, are we going to see Apple and Amazon with these over-the-top TV bundles? Are we about to see the dismantling, do you think, of the traditional cable MSO model?
I think, first of all, the areas that are declining over time tend to decline slower than people expect. I do think because of two things. One is the networks have gotten faster, and two is more creative people are investing in really high-quality content. Overall, that high-quality drive to content will actually be better for consumers. So I think you may see an acceleration of the TV issues when you look at it. I mean, one stat I always throw out is that some of the TV businesses are down more than AOL's dial-up access has been down, and one of the Wall Street analysts wrote about that. And I think when you look at those numbers, you say something's happening here. Looks like it's systemic, and it's going to be a big change.
What role is AOL playing or going to play in Verizon's Go90 video service?
Well, I think Go90, first of all, we're doing the monetization for Go90, and then over time we're getting into deeper and deeper partnerships as one company about how we put our brands. So Huffington Post, TechCrunch, all those type of brands will go on Go90. And two is we're helping Verizon manage the advertising side and starting to help manage product and content over time. But Marnie and Brian Angelette and the people running that product have done a really good job of signing up what I think is tier A content. So we're essentially playing a massive support role in that, and then over time there's probably plans to integrate more, but that's what we're doing right now.
AOL CEO Tim Armstrong earlier today. Now, I also got a chance to sit down with Oscar-winning super producer Brian Grazer. He is the man behind such mega hits as Apollo 13 and A Beautiful Mind, TV shows like 24, Friday Night Lights, Empire. Grazer broke the news to me that his next project is a movie starring Eddie Murphy for Netflix. I asked him why he chose Netflix instead of a traditional Hollywood studio.
I like Netflix a lot. We're doing Arrested Development on Netflix. We did one season. We're going to do another season. I like Netflix a lot. I think the way they govern their creativity is exceptional. They believe, if they like the idea and the foundational elements, you're just off to do what you believe in, and they trust it, and it's been working for them.
Meantime, one of Netflix's competitors in the on-demand video arena is thinking about branching out. According to people familiar with the matter, Amazon is looking into launching a live online TV service and has spoken to both CBS and NBC about carrying their channels. A live TV service would put the online retailer into direct competition with companies like Comcast and AT&T. And of course, Brad, you wrote the book on Amazon. I mean, what do you make of the fact that Amazon is trying to do everything, it seems, when it comes to disrupting entertainment?
Well, look, I mean, the dismantling of the cable bundle is the most slow-moving but obvious disruption in technology. We pay an average of $100 for a cable bill. Most people would probably say they don't get $100 worth of value.
Right. I think I watch about 5 channels.
Right. And so
I have
Apple,
to have a cable subscription because I'm on Bloomberg.
Right. Well, Apple and Amazon and other companies are trying to kind of invent the future they want to see, right? Get some of that $100. But you need live TV to do it. And those are the deals with the ESPNs and the NBCs of the world. It will be interesting because, Comcast owns NBC. They won't want to part with that.
Right.
content.
And also, Apple hasn't been able to do this, and they've been trying for years. What
It's an
makes Amazon
economic
any
question.
different?
It's all about the terms of the deal. Now, Sling TV, of course, has an over-the-top live service. Sony has it. So it's possible. It's going to be a process.
Same time, Vice, Bloomberg confirming that Vice is trying to buy a cable network by the end of the year.
It's almost the opposite point.
Right, going in the opposite direction.
Vice,
Why?
of course, very popular with live video, but there's value to advertisers in the scale and the size of the TV audience. That's why Shane Smith of Vice is negotiating to buy a TV network. They've, of course, seen that the travails of Al Jazeera U.S. trying to buy current TV, buying current TV. That's a challenge to navigate that and get good placement on those cable and satellite lineups.
I did speak with Shane Smith just a few minutes ago, and he said they are doing some exciting things in TV, so we'll be watching to see what those things are. Thanks, Brad. Coming up, how is Silicon Valley rethinking the role of design? We'll talk with the Chief Creative Officer of Jawbone here at the Vanity Fair Summit next. Welcome back to Bloomberg West. I'm Emily Chang. We are live at the Vanity Fair New Establishment Summit in San Francisco. Yesterday, I spoke with Vanity Fair editor Graydon Carter and asked him about one of the most talked about topics here, whether or not we are in a bubble. Take a listen to his take.
I think there is a bubble. I think there's always a bubble. I think there's a bubble for everything. I think the age of celebrity that we're in now, that'll disappear because nothing stays the same forever.
To bubble or not to bubble, that is the question. Turning now to design, another entrepreneur here in Silicon Valley is changing the way we interact with technology. He's designed products like the Jawbone Up, the Jambox, the August Smart Lock. Joining us now here, Yves Béhar, Creative Chief Officer of Jawbone and founder of Fuseproject. Oh my gosh, Yves, I mean, so many collaborations you've worked on with Samsung and Prada and now Movado. You're here with a new set of watches, not smart watches, traditional watches that you designed. Tell us about them.
Well, I wouldn't call them traditional watches. I would call them beautiful watches. Movado has been known over the last century for really being a forebearer of the Bauhaus and of modern design. And the big classic, the museum watch that Movado is known for, is really one of the biggest classics of design of the last 100 years. But this is an update. This is a new design, a new approach, and I think it's very exciting to move into such such good company, basically.
It's remarkable, Yves, that we are looking at these watches and seeing significance in the fact that they are not connected. You cannot check your email on these watches. Do you still see a lot of virtue in having devices that are beautiful but actually don't do everything?
Absolutely. I think look at the way we dress, look at the jewelry, look at the accessories you wear. You choose them because they're beautiful. You choose them because they reflect who you are. You love them because they mean something to you. And they don't need to be all the same for us here. We all prefer different things. So I think that kind of diversity in clothing, in jewelry, in accessories is going to continue, whether they're connected or not.
This is interesting because obviously, I use my Jawbone to monitor my steps, but my Apple Watch can do a million things. But I use it to check the time and check in for my flight. I don't use any of that other stuff. What do we really need on these connected devices like a Jawbone?
So what we really need, what we found out that people love, is to own their own data, to know what's going on with themselves. It's very personal. What you get out of a Jawbone tracking device is how you sleep, how you spend your energy during the day, how you walk, your heart rate. These are really important knowledge, the kind of knowledge that you're really looking for as an individual. It changes the way what I eat. It changes what I do throughout the day. It changes what I do before I go to bed, for example. We all try to not just optimize ourselves, but just have a better life. And those devices help you do that.
Yves, there have been some quality problems associated with previous Jawbone products like the F2 and F3. What have you learned about integrating beautiful design with practical, efficient, customer-oriented software?
I think you have to solve all of it. I mean, you have to have a beautiful product. It needs to be well crafted, well finished. It needs to be beautiful. It needs to be survive the everyday life that we have. So what I've learned is products that people love are products that last, and that's what we do. That's what we work on every day.
All right, Yves Béhar, Chief Creative Officer of Jawbone and designer of many things. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Nice being here.
Great to have you. That does it for Bloomberg West here from the Vanity Fair New Establishment Summit. Brad, thank you so much for joining us throughout the last couple of days. Chamath Palihapitiya, former Facebook VP, now Social Capital founder, joins us tomorrow. We're going to be talking about diversity and his new future list.